RV Flagpole.
Myers RV Flagpole, located at 784 Ridge Road. Applicant Dylan Miller is requesting an area variance to allow a 100-foot tall flagpole where a maximum of 35 feet is permitted associated with the installation of a 100-foot tall flagpole on a 5.87 acre parcel in SBL number 079.17-1.14.1, located in a CO commercial outdoor storage district under sections 130-14A sub 3 and 350-20 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Can you state your name and just to tell us about, I see the flagpole's already up, so just tell us about the project.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Miller. I'm the general manager at the Myers over there on Ridge Road. And we have erected a 100-foot flagpole there on site. I do 100% come with my hand and apologizing for not consulting with the town and doing our due diligence on that beforehand. But I am asking permission from the folks to keep our flagpole, which we're very proud of. That's our project.
So you didn't get a permit before you started?
In defense, I submitted a sort of a general inquiry into the town ahead of time. Never heard anything back. I consulted some folks. I tried to read through the code, tried to get some opinions on what the code was stating, and I just missed it. I just missed it, frankly. Thought we were okay if we were off the property line by 100 feet in every direction. That was sort of the standard that I used.
I don't know about the rest of it, but I have mixed feelings about this. I mean, permit, code, everything, and at the same time, I feel unpatriotic.
Going strictly on the application, I mean, the thing that points to me is it was self-created. You know, it's not like someone bought a house and there was a shed, and they're trying to make it right, or they want a fence, or a porch overhead. This is self-created.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said you got permit, because I don't know if you were misled, or if you just neglected the permit process. So.
For honestly, for what it's worth, it was very much I very much tried to do my due diligence on this thing and just did not get good information and went ahead with it. But I will say that anybody that's driven by this thing's beautiful. I mean, it really, really is. It's a great flag. And for what it's worth, and I understand that it's not what's in question here. But we have dozens, and I mean dozens and dozens. I get daily phone calls from residents thanking us for what it's flag on. I get these social media posts that are coming in constantly on a daily basis, thanking us for putting this flagpole up. I really do believe it adds to the character of that stretch of road, and it really enhances the feel of that area.
Now, we did receive a letter or more than one letter. I read one letter myself. In opposition.
Yeah, I spoke to this gentleman the other day, David Croyle, from 807 Francesca Way, and he states, the variance to allow a 100-foot flagpole located at 784 Ridge Road. Unfortunately, I can't attend the meeting scheduled for the 18th because of my handicap situation. I am elderly and live alone, almost directly behind the RV business, which is a residential street zoned residential. There is a small wooded lot approximately 50 yards that separates us from Myers. There is also a water right-of-way managed by the town of Webster with a drop-back requirement. This water right-of-way runs down the entire backyards of residents living on Francesca and empties into a beautiful retention pond that supports many forms of wildlife, including deer, fox, waterfowl, and many more forms of wildlife. I cannot imagine the need for a 100-foot flagpole with an attached very large flag flapping in the wind and the associated noise it would make. Not to mention to be lit at night with the light pollution shining into our bedroom windows. Mayors may be zoned commercial, but we are not. We pay our taxes and keep our properties up. If this variance is granted, it would be a nightmare, not to mention a huge eyesore to Webster. Mayors is only one business, and they certainly don't need this flagpole, in my opinion. They apparently don't care about their immediate neighbors. Please deny the variance request and keep Webster where life is worth living. Thank you for your consideration, David Croyle. Now, I will mention that when I spoke with Mr. Croyle, I asked him if he had experienced any of what he described, and he was unaware that the flagpole had actually been installed. So, I think his statement was more based on fear than facts. I told him to take a look at it and get back to me if he is in fact experiencing those things.
We'll add that letter to the record, of course. I went there after dark because one of his concerns was light, and I went there, like 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the evening one night at his house, and the light is straight up. It doesn't wash into the neighborhood. Which was, the gentleman made it sound as if the light was coming into his bedroom window and keeping him up at night, and that's not the case. It's straight up. I didn't see the flag waving in the breeze. It was raining out that night. It is visible from his house, but between the trees, I couldn't. How far did you say it was from?
It's about 750 to 800 feet between
750.
the location of the flagpole and the residence on Francesco Park.
Yeah, as I said, this is a tough.
So, I mean, I unfortunately did not get a chance to drive by. It would have been really easy for me to do, just time did not permit. I struggled because it went up without the due diligence, and I struggle a lot with that. The other piece I struggle with is a 100-foot appendage in the town of Webster, and setting a precedent for others to start doing the same. And right now, the zoning has it set to the maximum height of what the allowable main structure is on the property. So for me, I struggle with a lot of things, right? I mean, it's not just one; it's stacking up on top of each other. And Chris, as you mentioned, this was an item that was caused by Myers, right?
It's self-created.
Right, it's self-created. Right.
Yeah, I believe, what's the maximum allowable height?
It's 35.
30 to 35.
Yeah. So I mean, we're in excess of 3 times the amount.
So from the town's perspective, our main concern is the proximity to other neighboring buildings, and if it were to fall in a certain direction, would it impact traffic? It's more of a safety concern from our perspective. I will say that the site itself is set down from Ridge Road quite a bit, so it doesn't have the full impact
It's a
of.
good 20 feet lower
Right.
than the elevation of Ridge Road.
So there is that, but we weren't able to get a 2-scale instrument survey map of this in order to verify its proximity to the lot lines. I know that there are also power lines that run north and south, just to the east. And from the town's perspective, we just want to ensure that if it were to fall, that it's far enough away from all of that it wouldn't pose a safety threat.
Do you know what the distance is to the road?
I did measure it out as 100 feet from the road.
From the road or the right of way?
from where our grass line begins.
So edge of pavement. So it is, if the wind blows it, it is blowing that flag, which is not a small flag, and pulls that pole, it could pull it into the road.
I don't think it would hit the road, but again, I'm by no means.
No, understood, yes, yes, I got you.
Yeah, I think that same consideration is taken in when you look at cell towers and that sort of thing, the fall pattern.
Yep,
It could
100%.
damage if it came
Oh,
down.
most cell towers have a 150% of the
Yeah.
height of the structure.
Same with
So if you have a
Carolina.
100-foot cell tower, you need a 150-foot falls up.
Yep.
Just to accommodate, just in case of this.
Oh, the margin of safety.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
With that in mind, is there a way for us, we can come back with a survey to prove that it's where it's supposed to be?
I also, I also am concerned with setting a precedent here. And having business up and down Ridge Road, I have concern with that, because, why can't we do it, kind of attitude hurt us somehow?
And though the light pollution is not going into the neighbors' houses, you're shining a more bright light straight up into the sky, which is then diminishing your night sky. So there is light pollution there as well. So again, I have a lot of check boxes that I'm checking, unfortunately.
This opens, meeting's open to the public, anybody wishes to speak for or against this project? Can we return it back to the board?
No,
You have someone.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Hi, my name is Barry Pugh. I'm a tenant here in Webster. I've been living in Webster actually since 1968. I am currently a retired U.S. Marine, and I've got to tell you, going down Ridge Road and seeing that flag is amazing to me. It shows that Webster still has the patriotism that we need in this country. This country is, we don't have it. We need to display it. We need to display our flags. We need to let people know that we still are patriots and Americans. And to take that flag down, I think it would be devastating to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening. My name's Robin Harold. I am a newer resident of Webster. I've been here about 5 years, but I love living here because Webster is where life is worth living. And that is part of having a 100-foot flagpole. If any of you remember about, I don't know, a year or so ago, we had a thing going trying to get a flagpole going at the Webster where the bushes are over the bay. Well, New York State is New York State, and we couldn't do that. And I am so glad that you put that 100-foot flagpole there. We have a lot of veterans here. We have Blue Star families, we have Gold Star families. We have people doing acts of kindness every day. We have people being good neighbors every day. That doesn't happen everywhere. That happens here in Webster. He was nice enough to put a 100-foot flagpole in a spot where people drive going to Sodas Point, Oswego, everywhere else. Going through our town, spending money in our town. I think we should be thanking him instead of giving him trouble. He's in a spot where there are not a lot of other things, but other businesses. He's almost next door to the VFW. I think we need to give him a variance for that flagpole and keep that flag at 100 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board. I'm hearing a lot of concerns from a lot of the members of the board. Probably could have prevented all this by getting permanent direction. Maybe a 50-foot flagpole would have would have passed for variance, but, well, I'm hearing from a few members of the board that they're not.
I'm torn with this. I love the flag. When I drove by, it didn't, my view of 100 feet is taller because typically when I'm standing next to a cell tower or radio tower, it's from the ground level, and this is 20 feet off of the road level. That being said, the dimensions of the flag are the same as the footprint of my house. It's huge, and it's lovely, but there's flagpoles up and down Ridge Road that also show patriotism without being that large. And you know, I know Myers at several other locations has large flagpoles.
Really, at all locations.
I don't know if all
Part of what we do.
locations, I did check the Google views,
Yeah.
just the ones that seem to be located within cities proper are less likely to have a flagpole. I know the location out in Caledonia does, but it's in the middle of cornfields, and your property is significantly bigger than 5 acres, and there's nobody around that's impacted by it except a cow or two. And the same thing with the location in Bath and the other locations. It's a dangerous precedent for us to allow it to be there, especially without a permit, because you did have a company install it. They should have known better even if you didn't. And I don't think the reflection of your commitment to the country and its values would be any less on a 50-foot flagpole. So I love the look of it, but I also know that when I looked up at it, I was not looking at the road. And that's a really wicked stretch of Ridge Road to try and pass through at any time of day. So
That really heard from you.
and I don't know right where it is, we don't have a survey.
I would love to know where it's located. If we're going to massage this, something a little smaller than what is presently located. I'd like to be able to know its exact location.
Well, there's conservative. Point well taken.
I love the flag, I love the size, but there again, the precedent that would establish is very concerning.
Okay.
Well, to be clear, there is not a restriction on the size of the flag, on a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're talking about the pole only,
Correct.
the height.
The issue typically is that design flagpoles and flags, and depending on the size of the flag that Myers wants, you need a certain size flagpole to be able to carry a certain size flag, is really what it comes down to.
I think,
Structurally, it needs to be that size, because the wind's blowing at 20 miles an hour, that thing's a set.
Yep.
So it's gotta have the structural ability to do it. And honestly, I agree with almost everyone's opinion, but to me, it's not the height, because if he was asking for it, I wouldn't necessarily be against it if no one else around him was against it, and he could prove that it was going to be where he says it's going to be, and we could see the effect. To me, it's especially with the project the way it is now, say, President, he skipped the process where we could have debated, or at least discussed, not debating necessarily, that, okay, would you be happy, could you do with a smaller flag at a 60 or an 80-foot pole or something like that, and by unwittingly circumventing the process, we've been denied the ability to compromise potentially on what he wants versus what we think is best for the town. So I mean, that's what I'm conflicted about, is that overall, I get it, but the fact that this whole thing is not self-created makes it difficult for me to say, yeah, go ahead, no big deal.
after listening to everybody on the board, something else comes to mind. We don't have any engineering drawings on that pole. That pole could be fatally dangerous. I mean, that's a structure, major structure. This Paul is a 10-story building. So, you know, we're lacking permitting process, we're lacking the opportunity for discussion. If you came to this board, maybe we would have agreed to a 50-foot pole, or 60, I don't know, I'm just throwing out numbers. But there's no engineering on it, and we get 60-mile-an-hour winds here every month. So it could conceivably be a hazard, and we're not even aware of it, because it didn't go through the proper stages with an engineer's stamp and an engineer's drawing and structural details and so on. So how to proceed here is probably deny the variance and then have the applicant come back with alternatives if he wants a flagpole with, you know, with more detail. That's what it amounts to. Yeah, what do you think? Just deny the variances?
Well, either that or table that.
We can do it.
If the applicant's willing to compromise by providing us the necessary information so we can massage this application.
It's installed, right? I mean,
If he's willing to compromise.
But
you
again,
compromise.
if he's willing to compromise, should it need to be lower?
I guess my point is, it's already installed,
Yeah.
so the compromise regardless is going to be take it down and put a new one up. You don't cut the top of a flagpole off, unfortunately, to shorten it. So,
But he can give the opportunity for the company to investigate if there are alternatives to using the vast majority of the structure that's there.
fair.
And maybe it's, you know, able to, not necessarily cut it out, but maybe it's in sections and you just remove the top section. I don't know, I didn't look at it that closely.
Sure.
But at least this way, we're not denying him the opportunity to request it. You know, this way he can come back if he, like I said, if he believes it's in his best interest to let him come back and present it to us, and then we can evaluate it with all the information, not just by the way it's built, so, you know, I need your permission.
I mean, I'm more than willing, obviously, to secure some, you know, some of the engineering specs and what's
Who did it
necessary.
install?
Gentleman, Peter Mills was his name, sorry, the company's escaping there just a second. Pond Mills Enterprises is the name of it.
What I would suggest, and I'll see if the board agrees, let's table this to the next meeting, but I'd like you bring everything together by the next meeting, because personally, that flagpole may be a hazard we're not aware of, right in the heart of Webster. If that were to fall across Ridge Road, it'll kill people. But, and you know, that's serious business we're talking about. So, would you like to table and investigate your options?
I would, yes, sir.
So, what do you think? Is that agreeable to the board? But I don't
Yes,
want to
but
go
I-
past the next meeting because it may be a hazard.
But I absolutely need to see a survey, because I understand it's located 100 feet from any hazard, except the flag, when it tips over, you know, I've got, 30, 40 feet of flag beyond it. And I'm a first responder, so I know the hot mess that's gonna create. So I'm just,
Well,
I really need the survey and the engineering.
a licensed surveyor will locate it exactly and show fault pattern.
Right.
Will show fault pattern in all directions.
And also the
And see if there's
height,
any adjacent buildings or structures or whatever would be hazardous.
are they able to do height from road level as well when they?
They'll take that into consideration.
I know I could get out there with my protractor and math.
Well, no, they can get the base level and then put the level of Ridge Road in. It's almost simple math.
Yeah.
Okay, so you agreed to table till the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
So you can collect all this data, the engineering, the survey work and so on, and then we can do a little bit more, a little bit more informed before we make a decision. All right, so the applicant has decided to table. I'll make a motion to allow the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
August 8th is the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, get the information to Josh as quickly as possible so we have time to review it, please.
They have at least 5 days before the meeting to be able to review them.
Thank you.
I will not be here for the next meeting.
Okay, then we'll table to the next meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate it.